Make this cozy today. Looks like some people have gone to stay out late last night and couldn't quite make this today. Come and be cozy, please be cozy.
Really comfortable. Anybody hungover? Just me. Okay, sorry.
Hiding you. I was expecting it to be. Yeah, coming out.
So yesterday I kind of talked about mostly geeking out my geeky credentials and my writing credentials. I suppose today maybe I need to talk a little bit more about actual books, because that is what I brought some with me. So I thought I'm going to give it a show and tell. This is one I made earlier.
You'll need this one.
Yeah, no, this one. I am largely known right now as what we call the trade of tying. So that is, I write books based on other people's stuff. That's not to say that I have written books based on my own stuff. A lot of people have said to me things like, "Well, can't you write books?" Yeah, I think there's some people have a perception that if you write tying books, it's because you can't get it, or because you're not capable of doing your own stuff. But the truth is, you have to actually be a proper writer before you can actually be a tying book. So what I actually have with me is my most recent book, and my earliest one actually.
Your earliest one's up here, sweetie.
This is the very first time I ever did. This is a series of children's books I wrote for Sunday, which is a series of westerns, steampunk westerns, very, very heavily influenced Jules Verne, Raiders of the Lost Ark, kind of sort of aimed for a kind of 14-year-old and up sort of age group. I remember when I was writing, actually, they said to me, aim for this sort of like teenage boys and girls. That's the kind of age group we want. And I thought to myself, what was I reading? What was I really enthused about when I was that age? Raiders of the Lost Ark. Right, maybe something like that. So it's kind of like action adventure and cowboys and Indians and giant steam trains that transform into dragons and that kind of thing. I would have probably had a nice career as a children's writer, except for J.K. Rowling. Very much. Unfortunately, when Harry Potter broke, she broke the children's writing industry in this country, because so many people were now for Harry Potter to buy anything else, and the industry went through quite a terrible set of doldrums. She, of course, keeps that bank account now, but a lot of us basically had to find other places to work. So I was looking at doing time books. I always read them when I was a teenager. I think really it was kind of my gateway drug to sci-fi. Because when I was a kid, I was interested in science fiction. I was reading comics, I was reading science fiction books, I was watching TV shows, and then I suddenly found out I could read books based on the TV shows I liked, which was a terrific idea. So I was saying yesterday about how time books kind of unfold the world a little bit more. And this is back in the days before DVD, before director's commentary. When you read the novelisation of the movie and you find like 3 or 4 scenes in it that weren't even in the film. Wow, I didn't know there was a scene of this happening. I remember reading the Alan Dean Foster's novelisation of Alien. the whole sort of cocooning scene where Rick finds the other crew members, Dallas, cocoon. And that's just what the film called that was shot. And it was in the script. It never actually appears in the finished version of the movie. So time books to me were always the great thing. Because not only did you get the internal viewpoint of the characters, but you also get much more extra stuff. And I've always had a hankering to do them, so when the opportunity came down the line, I was absolutely about to do that. My most recent book, it just come out this past month, is this one. Starting actually one. A few people here bought a copy this weekend, so thank you. Yeah, Relativity, I had a lot of fun doing this one. Remember yesterday I was talking about how most of my stuff has things exploding in it, and there's a nuclear bomb going on the front cover, so that doesn't happen in the book, it almost does. So what can I say about the business of being a trained writer? It's sometimes a bit of a thankless task, because you are playing, I talked yesterday about how being a time writer is like playing with somebody else's toys. And while it's really, really cool to say, wow, it's really great to write a Star Wars novel, tell stories about Luke Skywalker and about that and Action Fire, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, you can't do anything that radically changes it. So it puts a lot of pressure on you as a writer to take your characters on an interesting journey, but still at the same time, you have to not exactly reset everything back to zero, but you have to bring it to a point where you don't change anything too much. Sometimes, in certain book lines, you will get the opportunity to do things that are a bit more radical. Star Wars, I think, you're not Chewbacca, for example. Sorry for saying that. And in some of the current Star Trek books, because they're carrying on the storylines of shows that now not on air anymore. They've actually changed some of the backstory there. Anybody here was a fan of Enterprise? Okay, who thought that killing off Trip Tucker was a bad idea? Yeah. Well, he's not dead anymore. Read the novels, he's not dead. Because, there's not going to be any more Enterprise, so the guys doing the book said, well, you know what, let's just change things. Let's actually not do the reset button thing. Let's actually radically alter things. So I'm just reading it right now. It's Good That Men Do. And it reveals that Trip actually didn't die. Trip's on a secret mission off the Romulan space. It's not dead! Brilliant! So sometimes we do the opportunity to do stuff like that, but that's usually the exception rather than the rule. If you want to sort of kill off all of the characters or, change them radically, you usually have to go, hey, this is all kind of alternate reality. Sometimes a bit lame because it's a kind of sci-fi equivalent of, it was all or the shower scene, yeah. So the Jack O'Neill steps out of the shower. I'm sure the French ladies will know. Gratuitous shower scene, yeah, that's very anime style. Beawash. Sorry? There you go. Oh yeah, well, I don't write that. So, I'm lucky because I grew up as a science fiction fan, and there were a lot of great shows that were part of my kind of personal sci-fi landscape. And I'm really, really pleased that I get to write a Doctor Who story or a Star Trek story, because I'm a really big fan of those things, and I have a great deal of love for it. And while I treat it sort of as precious jewel thing, I'm also not afraid to go, what can I do with this? It's going to be great! I'm going to put all the characters in a vice and just turn it. It's the kind of writing I do. But it's fun, it's challenging, it's very different from writing your own universe from the ground up, obviously, because you've got a hell of a lot more work to do. Whereas if you're writing a tie-in universe, you have basically most of the tools will be supplied to you. So if you're writing, say, Stargate, you know where that takes place, you know who these characters are, you have a rough idea about their kind of interactions, the way they talk, the way they play, and then you have to come in and impose a story upon them. And while it sounds like it's easier to do than to write stories from the ground up, sometimes it's harder, because if you're working alongside an ongoing show, like for example Atlantis, it's quite difficult to come up with stories that they aren't doing on a television show, because you don't want to be telling the same thing. 3 weeks later, go, look at the episode of Atlantis. It's your book. Thanks, guys. And of course, unless they've got telepaths working at the studio, they're not going to be plucking ideas out of the brain. But with these sort of shows, there's only a certain number of ideas that you can have that will end up going along the same type of lines. Whereas if you're doing something like, say, the Warhammer 40,000, that's a game-based universe. And based on a series of stuff like this, that's Warhammer 40,000 like this. With that, in a game-based universe, because it's much, much broader, it's not about the characters like it would be in a TV show. In a game-based universe, here is the universe, and this is what it's populated with, these alien races, these kind of planets, these sort of spaceships, these sort of worlds. And you have an idea of the factions. So you get a much, much broader palette to create characters, but at the same time, you still have all this great stuff to draw from. And I've been really enjoying doing the Warhammer novels. It's this kind of slightly Frank Herbert style, Dunian, Gothic, dark future with lots of stuff lying up that keeps coming out every time I say it. You're detecting a pattern. This is right. It is, obviously, yes. It's probably a good thing I'm doing that, really, other than burning places down. Perhaps one of these days I really should try writing some kind, gentle story about people sitting on a bench discussing their love for the world. And everything explodes up.
You should meet up with our stand-up chemist, Dr. Roy Lowry, who did fireworks.
What it is, I used to be, when I had an earth job like normal people, I used to be a plastics technologist, so I actually did work in the laboratory with my lab coat going, life! I've created life! So yeah, get back to the market. And I did actually used to sort of make things, small things, set explode. That's part of my job. I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe I've just had a revelation. That's obviously what it is. Yeah, you know, I missed that part of my old job, and I'm working into what I'm doing in this creative way. Virtually setting things on fire. Yeah. What does that say about me? Anyway, let's throw the room open to questions. So just go ahead.
You just mentioning that you were very influenced by the shows you watched, the sci-fi shows you watched. The obvious ones I've got to do. Are there any other shows that you really remember from when you were?
Well, I watched everything. You know, I mean, I really sort of absorbed it like a sponge because I grew up in a family that was of people who were fascinated by aviation. My mum and my dad were both people who like aeroplane games. And I remember at a very early age discovering rockets and spaceships, which were kind of like planes with better. And off the back of that, I learned out. I was like, you know, well, this is a real rocket. This is the Apollo moon rocket. But this is sci-fi where they have ships that go faster than light. That's even better than real ones. And so I kind of got into science fiction from there. And once I found out about sci-fi, everything I could find. So I read comic books. I read novels. I watched TV. I watched films. And I just couldn't get enough of it. And I still have a little of that in me today. I mean, I don't just have the spare time to do it as much as I used to. But pretty much now, every time a new sci-fi show comes down the pipe, I always make an effort to watch at least all together. So I have kind of some sort of opinion about, you know, what that show would be like. I mean, things that really had a lot of strong influence on me. Definitely, you know, the original Star Trek show. Because, you know, I watched that 2 or 3 times in the 60s, in one of the 70s when I was younger. The vibe of the classic Star Trek was something that really stuck with me because, you know, you had such potential, such power coming off the screen. You had these 3 great characters, you know, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and they're great to look at from a writer's standpoint because they're actually 3 aspects of the same person, and there's great drama going there because you've got, you know, Spock, who's kind of cold, clinical, positive, attractive, and stupid, you know, and then McCoy's, "Don't you point your irritating machine," you know, he's all visceral emotion. And Kirk is the guy in the middle who's kind of trying to balance these 2 different things. And Shaq Green Dog. But you know, so that was green women, clad women, he didn't care. Is there a show from your childhood that hasn't come out on DVD yet and you really want to come out? The shows you just want to show? Not really. I mean, most of the shows I like are pretty much out right now. We were talking yesterday about Space 1999 and that.
Because Richard found that Ace of Wands was about,
yeah,
and it was like, got to get that.
No, you know, I think pretty much everything that I like is out there, and I probably own those. Yeah. The thing is some of those shows, you watch them again and you're kind of like, that was brilliant, watch it again and you go, I had that reaction when looking at Space 1999 and I thought, it's not that good. I still love it, don't get me wrong. But it was like, why do I think it was great? Because I was 12. And I was in love with Captain Shell. But there you go. Yeah. UFOs are really good.
Yeah, I can understand when I think when they're older, there was a time when space babies that were very nice and more possible, but now you can see the darkness of the whole series and parallel.
City hairdos and dating outfits, like the shadows. But you know, the thing about the problem with UFO is that it doesn't, it's aged visually, but dramatically it hasn't. You know, you look at the story, it's a fantastic story. I mean, yeah, actually this is a good, you set me up on a good spur. I remember very, very clearly 2 episodes of UFO that really touched me as a writer, and since then I've come back and I've played around with a similar story. And that was Mindbender and Time Lash.
Yeah.
2 really, really well written stories. I remember anybody here seen this episode of Time Lash? Time Lash is basically about a bunch of aliens coming back, and they fractured the nature of time, and Stray has to come in and stop this guy. And the guy who he's chasing around the film set, this weird, surreal sort of chasing him, he's sort of slightly unstuck in time. And there's a great bit right at the very end where he's got a machine gun in front of this guy, and you shoot that and go, I'm not even here! Stray is like, and he realises that the guy standing there, but he's not there, and just kind of hoses thin air over here, and the guy saying over this. When I was a kid, I thought, wow, and I've never sort of seen, that kind of temporal mechanics on screen before. It's so simple. And that really struck a chord with me. And so I've ripped that off a couple of times. Good guys here. That show had strong influence on me, definitely. I think Blake 7 was also something that a lot of different shows and films that I saw told me different things. I felt like it was a series of educational events, like The Empire Strikes Back. I remember when that movie came out. I'd already seen Star Wars. I was a big fan of that, and the special background magazine making it. And it was the first time in my life that I actually really truly understood what goes into making a film, because it actually told you about how to build the sets, and how they would shoot certain sequences, and special effects were done. This is all back before the CGI era. And I suddenly realised that all these names I would see at the end of the film, what every single lady and guy would be doing in these movies, how much work they could be putting into them. And that really opened my eyes. That's a very, very strong influence on me. Not just because it's a great movie, that dark middle movement of the first three Star Wars films, which really appealed to me as a sort of nihilistic teenager, but the fact that this much work went into it, that kind of really opened my eyes. Definitely UFO had a similar sort of influence on me. And again, Blake 7 was a strong influence because it was really different from anything I'd seen before. Because I'd grown up watching Star Trek, and then Blake 7 comes along. And Blake 7 was, this very uniquely British take on that kind of show, because it felt like it spoke directly to me. Because it was British, it was gritty, and it was urban. I grew up in North London, and a lot of the sci-fi I've seen was just kind of post 1960s, 1970s, and it was mostly kind of unpleasant dystopian futures, or these kind of European sci-fi movies that looked like they were an IKEA catalog. And I was like, oh, Fahrenheit 451 or Alphaville, that kind of stuff. This is not the world that I live in. And I was grasping for something that was science fiction that would talk directly to me. And Blake 7 was one of those things that, Blake 7 is a dystopian future, but the characters in it seemed to me to be real, transcendent. It's again, it's like UFOs. If you look at Blake 7 there, it does look very, very creepy, but the quality of the show transcends the limitations that were imposed upon it. I think, the biggest paradigm shift for me as a science fiction fan and a science fiction viewer was Blade Runner. Because for the very first time I looked and I thought, I live there. That is the future I could see in 2019. I thought, I can imagine that world being the world that I'm going to grow up in. And that sort of urban science fiction I felt very, very strongly connected to, and I got into sort of reading cyberpunk, William Gibson's kind of stuff, and I discovered all these novels that I hadn't heard. Finally, I've come home, and that was, but as I say, it's all, for me, it's been an iterative process. Still now, here I am sort of getting towards my 40s, and I'm still discovering writers from the past and writers from the future, and learning more about this franchise, this medium. Because science fiction it's not static for me at all. Because it's not like historical fiction where, historical fiction will always be talking about this period, this, but science fiction is evolving, changing, growing medium. It's one of the reasons I love it so much. Because, in a year's time, there'll be another writer coming along, some guy you've never heard of, or talking about something you've never thought of. And, just open your eyes. I'm just reading Charlie Stross's book. Everybody hear it? Sell around that kind of stuff. And Charlie's got kind of, got some just mental ideas. And it's, every time I read someone new, I'm always saying that I think the best book I've ever read will be the next one. And, it's just great to read science fiction. Another question.
When you're doing Times and Warhammer and so on, do you ever feel, this is great, but I'd like to create my own universe where I've made all the rules?
Yeah, I have got a few books, I've got some ideas that I'm kicking around. A few things I'd like to do with my own. I've got a military science fiction novel that I wrote a few years ago that I keep going back to and feeling. I think my problem is that I keep tweaking it too much. I should really just kind of get it finished and send it out, and that's not quite right. I can't leave it alone. Because they say that great art's never finished, it's only painted. Not myself, great art, I'd like to be kind of, you know, the master of my own destiny. It would be great to write, you know, a series of books that would be, you know, as well liked as, you know, stuff like Heinlein or Larry Nichols or kind of No Space. I'd like to do something. I'd like to be known like that, doing something like No Space here. And maybe, who knows? You know, the great thing about being a writer is it's not really a job you ever give up. You know, you never really retire from it, or until they retire you. So I don't have any worries about where I'm going to go in my life. I'm just going to keep on writing. And, you know, eventually I'm going to get back to it. I still see myself as somebody who's got a lot of great opportunities in front of me. I mean, I write the tiny stuff because I love those universes. And those characters are fun and they're great places to visit. But at the same time, yeah, I think I'd like to be known for create my own. Who knows? You know? Right now I'm just kind of happy to be working.
Oh,
Just on a writing problem, I get the impression that science fiction television changing a lot. It used to be Star Trek episode completing itself. One episode, it was over, they were referred to again. Nowadays, a lot of things are building up over a period of episodes.
Serial narrative.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to that, quite personally. But does it change the nature of time?
Yeah, a little. I mean, a lot of shows have a lot more close continuity now. You know, you look at a show like Battlestar Galactica, actually, let's look at another one. You look at Doctor Who, like the entire spread of Doctor Who. There are lots of gaps in Doctor Who. There are places where, you know, the end of one episode, the next episode, they get out of the TARDIS and one of the characters says, "Oh, wasn't that great? We don't have to find Splarn." And you think, great, you know, there could be like 3 or 4 weeks of gap between these 2 episodes. Then you look at a show like, say, Battlestar Galactica, continuity very tight. There are a few little points of wiggle room here and there, you know, where they might say, you know, beginning of the episode, you remember that thing that happened 3 weeks ago, and you're, okay, so a 3 week gap. Most of the time it's quite noticed. Lost is a very good example of a show that's got no wiggle room whatsoever. You know, how would you write a tie-in for Lost? It was very difficult to do. I think the 2 that they did were about other characters, you know, people in the background. So you've got sort of Jack and Hurley and Sawyer in front of this guy back there, and it's all about his story, which is a really bad idea for a time because you don't want to read about it. Guy walking past in the background, you want to read about, you know, Jack and Hurley and Sawyer. Yeah, it does change the nature of things. It makes it hard for you to write a story that takes place in continuity. An easy way to get around that is to do like a prequel. I mean, they did that with Galactica. Or write like a kind of side story, like the Lost books, which is not about the main character, it's about stuff that's going on somewhere else. That's a more risky sort of thing to do. But yeah, the sort of serial narrative does make it difficult to kind of expand things out, because the tighter it's packed, the harder it is for you to kind of shoot a little space in there and say, well, I'm just going to tell a little bit of story about what takes place here. I mean, yeah, I know there are some of the Doctor Who novels that take place, you know, like 5-minute gap in the middle of one episode. Somebody told me about a scene where one Doctor Who episode, he gets into the TARDIS, he goes off somewhere, and he comes back, and people look like, oh, and he went off and had like 500 adventures, you know, in his 5-minute sort of like moment of dematerialization. Well, he went off, had all these adventures, and then dressed back in exactly the same clothes. Yeah. Okay. But you know, that's continuity. I mean, some people don't mind, you know, just chucking an adventure in anywhere. I suppose it depends on whether you're willing to suspend your disbelief. If you know, if you're that anal on that continuity, you know, there is no way that you've gone off and had 3 weeks of adventures in the middle of all this storyline. So do you care about that, or do you care about me telling the story? It's a balance between the two. Anybody else?
Are there any kind of tie-ins or genres that you've basically ordered your agent never to darken your door?
What would I never do? Well, I was offered the next Harry Potter video game a couple of weeks back, and it was a lot of money as well. And my first reaction was, I mean, this is my purely personal. My first reaction was I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. But I thought, no, it's not money, it's a good job. And for Electronic Arts, you know, really big company. Can I do this without ever having watched any of the films or read any of the books? I thought, oh, you know, I'm a professional writer, I'll give it a try. And they sent me the outline stuff to do, and I looked through the first 2 or 3 and it's like, Harry said to Hermione, and I just lost all of it. And I thought, I didn't want to call back and go, you know, I hate this franchise. That's unprofessional. That's the truth, I just said. And I was quite disgusted. I'm sorry, I'm really disgusted. It's not a problem, we're going to hold it back for 3 weeks. You can do it. Oh, my house is on fire. Oh, look, good evening. And in the end, they gave it to a guy who actually was a big fan of the franchise. I mean, it would have been wrong of me to do it, let's be honest. I could have, you know, and I could have cracked out something that was just a bit rubbish. Right, like if I'd have been sitting there writing that with, frankly, my loathing for that franchise, everybody who's a fan of that show, everybody who really does care about it, would look at it and go, he hates this, and this is a crap game, and he didn't care about it. And I know how bad I would feel. In fact, I know how bad I have felt about reading books and titles based on franchises that I love and care about, where someone's quite obviously gone, this crap now. So, not a big fan of that. This is more a question, I suppose, of my own personal pleasure. I'm not a big fan of the Buffy series, so I wouldn't be able to do that. I think, yeah, really, I wouldn't want to write any franchise that I didn't really like, I didn't really care about, because I think I would make a very good job of it. I wouldn't want to see my name attached to something that wasn't me trying to do 100% or something. So if I didn't have some love for it, I wouldn't touch it. There's so many weird and interesting things out there. There's a lot of franchises I like to work for, and then there are other people who, you know, heroes. They're doing it, you know, they're doing time novel for heroes.
Really?
Yeah, it's a really crap idea. You remember, everybody here seen the show? What's the name of the girl that the hero travels back in time to save?
Claire.
No, Claire.
Oh,
The
what's her name?
girl, the
yeah,
waitress.
yeah.
Yeah.
Waitress, yeah.
Well, whoever it is, the waitress. You know, he travels back in time for 6 months. You say 6 months.
Charlie.
That's right, yeah.
He travels 6 months back in time and saves life. They're going to write a novel of what happened in those 6 months. Well, we saw what happened in those 6 months, you know. And I thought, that doesn't sound like a very interesting idea to me. And that's because, coming back to what you said, Heroes has got very tight continuity. You know, if you wanted to do a hero story, I would say, let's do like, you know, the adventures of teenage horn-rimmed glasses man, or something like that. You know, tell a story about, you know, somebody else. Let's talk about, you know, what was Lindemann like when he was 20 years old. But yeah, I don't think there's plenty of universes out there that I'm not really a fan of, that I wouldn't want to write. And there are plenty out there that I do like, and there are plenty that if someone said to me, would you like to try this? Yeah, they're not. They're really cool. Happened to me a couple of weeks ago. There's a video game series called StarCraft, and I played it a couple of times, and the guys who did the novel said, would you like to do a StarCraft novel? Really thought about it. You know, cool game. Maybe I could. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Yes?
Any dream jobs that you really would really like to do that can't come away?
I'd like to do something on TV. You know, right now I'm working on the reset video, the new iteration of PlayStation TV series. And we are so damn close. And it's been, for the last 7 years, we've been trying to do this, and we get closer away, and we get closer away. Now, I really want to get that done. And it's annoying the hell out of me, because it's, like I say in the media, the last 10% is always the hardest thing to get. We've got most of the funding, we've got Sky-Liner interested in showing it, we've got a production company, we're putting up a lot of cash, and the guys have gone out to Cannes to try and sort of sell it. We've got to get this last 10% funding, we've got actors who are interested. It's all, we've got this brilliant head of steam right to the finish line, and everything stops. And it's like, can't make it done. That's something right now, at this very minute, that's something that I would really like to be able to figure out. So I don't know how many of you know about the place at Audio Drama. Has anybody here heard of them?
I've not listened to it.
Okay. Has anybody heard of them? We're found by status. They're brilliant. Yeah. They're actually available. If you go to Sci-Fi Channel's website, Sci-Fi Channel UK, there's a link. It's not very easy to find them, actually. If you nose around it, there's a link, and you can listen to them as a 5-minute downloadable chunks like that, basically the scene. And we've released them also as a free CD box set. It's me, Ben Aranovich, who worked on Doctor Who wrote Remembrance of the Daleks and Battlefield, Mark Platt, who wrote Ghostlight, really brilliant Doctor Who, and then me, we've done the first 3 episodes of 3 60-minute CDs. What we did there is we basically Battlestar Galactica That's good.
Right there.
I agree. We've reimagined Blade 7, basically looking at the way that stuff is acting. We're going to do this with Blade 7. I talked earlier about how that show transcends the quality of what it looks like. I think it's like, like Batman or Tarzan, or even, Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet. It's a great story. You can retell it with different characters in different situations, and it still has that kind of impetus and power. So what we've done is a new version of the show, the radio play, and we basically did that to try and rekindle interest in Blade 7. Because a lot of the hardcore Blade 7 fans were saying to us, we would like to see a continuation. We want to see Blade 7 the next generation. We can bring back all of these actors, which would be a bit difficult because some of them are dead, and most of them are a bit old. So it's like maybe they're all kind of hobbling around the liberator. So what we've done is we've basically recast a lot of the roles. We've got Colin Salmon from the Bond movies, plays Avon. So we've got a lot of people. Oh my God, Black Avon, yeah, he's great. He's got this really sort of sexy chocolatey voice. He's incredibly evil when he wants to be. We've got Derek Riddell, who's in No Angels, and he was the guy who owned Torture. Remember the werewolf episode of Doctor Who? He was that guy. Danielle Nardini, who was in This Life, playing Servalan. So we've got Scottish Blake and Scottish Servalan. Craig Kelly, who's in Queer as Folk, plays Travis. Slash hands like going, rubbing their hands. And then we've got some interesting guests. I've got Rula Lenska from one of our shows. Doug Bradley playing Pinhead. And Michael Craig, who's brilliant as well. We had him come in and do like 2 lines of dialogue. And I said, you got Michael Craig to do like 2 lines? He was like, yeah, you just said you wanted to do it. And he was so good. Like me and Mark and Ben went out for a writing competition. Right, we're bringing that character back. This is brilliant. Right, we're going to do it. Frantically sort of scribbling kind of ideas. But what we've done with the show is we basically started off. The first episode is kind of similar to the first 2 or 3 episodes of the original show. So we start off, it's like, again, following the model of what they did about Stone Lake. It begins the same way and then we just way through that. So by the time you get to episode 3, we've cherry-picked out some of the elements of the original show that we really like and we chucked away a lot of the other ones. So a lot of people have been saying to us, why haven't you got Talbot from the Liberator? It's a crack writing mate, because every time someone gets in trouble, you just pluck them out. Remember in the original show, they used to lose their bracelets. So, and we haven't written Callie yet, actually. I've just finished writing episode 4. And everyone's been saying, where's Callie? Where's Callie? Why haven't you written Callie yet? We're keeping her for something really cool. So I've just finished writing the 4th episode. She turns out a lot of fun doing that. We all decided we really didn't play it yet. That's going to be a funny character. Right now, we've got episode. I'll come to you.
I was just going to ask if you think happy.
I don't know yet. There's an actress I really like, Katarina Olsen. She's doing some stuff right now for Big Finish on their BBC 7 series with Paul McGann. And she's got this really sort of, she's one of them kind of husky knee tremors sort of voices that make them pass out. But she's got a really good ability with different accents, and she can just kind of, so how some actors can just like turn a dial in their head and just go from one voice to another. She's really brilliant at doing it. But that's not up to me. I'm just a writer. I just work here. It's up to the casting directors who they're going to get. I think they want to try and get a big name actress. We'll see. And so Mark Pratt's writing the next episode after that one, which is going to have a lot of stuff about the Orals and Callie's people. And then Ben Aravich has got to write episode 6 eventually. Ben's a great writer. He's well known for it. He was like Douglas Adams. He loves the sounds of Deadline to make it say whoosh fast. He's a great guy to work with though, because he's the story editor. He's got really enthusiasm for the series. He's the guy whose job it is to kind of keep the rest of us in line. And he calls me up and goes, I've got this brilliant idea. And I'm like, really, let's just talk about it. Well, like 7. And we'll get kind of really jazzed up on that whole thing. But, do you have a question?
Say, Liberator's still a kick-off ship.
Yeah, well, very much so. Liberator's my favourite thing about the show. Really. I mean, there's a lot about Blade 7 I like, but Liberator was one of those things, when you see that ship for the very first time, I was like, wow, is that? I've never seen a starship look like it. It looks like a cathedral, doesn't it? It's got those weird sort of minarets, everything, that big glowing green thing at the end. You know, what the hell is that? I've never seen a spaceship like that. And I was fascinated by it, and I was always upset that they never really kind of went into the weird. Didn't get this. So when my episode actually is my episode is the last one. I said my episode is actually called Liberator, and I said I want to do some more cool Liberator stuff. So we've made the ship a lot more alien and a bit weird. We've done some very strange things. You know, it can change shape inside, and you know, the rooms can move around, that kind of thing. And we've got there's a huge corridor that runs the entire length of the middle of the ship. And there's a great scene when they come on board and Jenna is like looking at this corridor and they're like, this goes on for like, you know, 200 kilometers. And Jenna goes, yeah, and when the ship's under acceleration, it will become a pit. And you go, we've got Carrie Dobrow from Babylon 5 playing Jenna. Yeah, which is a lot different. We decided, some of the things we decided to do early on is we were saying, right, okay, what did the original show do right? Keep all that. What did they do wrong? And, you know, Jenna was a great character at the end of the show. But then she turns into this kind of blonde-haired housewife who's just kind of like, oh, I've been taken over by aliens again. Oh, now I'm being mind controlled. And it's like, oh, come on. She was a great character. I never really did anything with her. So we started talking about our Jenna's a truck driver. She's like, you know, a bit influenced by Ripley, from Aliens. You know, we wanted somebody like that who looked like she's a working class, sort of hardcore tough girl, and she's, you know, been piloting starships like, you know, so she was sitting on the lap of her daddy flying through warp space. You know, the idea that she was born in space, that she knows spaceships, and her whole motivation throughout the entire series is she gets on board Liberator and thinks, cool, I'm going to play with this is my toy now. And there's a scene in my episode where Avon tries to take over the ship, and Jenna's like, no, this is mine, you know, I'm not letting you have this, I get to fly, you know, and she pets it like it's like a dog, you know, because the ship is one of the things we've done to make it more interesting. Is we've made the ship's more alive. It's not just Zen and a Liberator. You know, there's the blurring between the two. You know, is it actually a vessel or does it have some sort of intelligence of its own? And she says, you know, the Liberator's alive. It's willful or moody. You know, you're not in charge of it. It lets you think you're in charge. So I had a lot of fun doing that, and we've played around with some of those ideas. But yeah, it's really cool. So I'm really enthusiastic about that. So yeah, I've gone completely off the subject, but yes, your point, that I would really love for us to be able to get the Blake 7 project. And where we are right now is we have Sky are interested, whether they'll actually do it or not. We are going to, hopefully, if the money comes together, we're going to do 2-hour movies. So like they did with Battlestar Galactica, you know, over 2 different parts, one story, but split 4 hours for 2 2-hour movies. And if that does well, off the back of that, we hope to launch a new Blake 7 television series, which will be like Battlestar Galactica, telling the story again with a new cast. We're going off in a different direction, doing other stuff. And, you know, we're all kind of like, great.
People say, like you're saying about getting this class of money together to do something, or you don't necessarily give you the bills and you can't put the money to do something. But has anybody ever actually said, look, there's thousands of you out there and you want this to happen, or send us has anybody ever tried that?
Yeah, it's a scam.
Anyone remember Legionnaires? Was that like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this.
Is that a genuine thing?
Yeah, well, the thing is how would you know? I mean, I remember when Firefly got cancelled, a bunch of my friends who were on the Firefly fans.net board were all saying, well, great idea, you know, if we all contributed $20 each, we could, you know, build a war chest to get them to make like a TV movie. But yeah, it's just not the way it's going to happen. You know, because the whole Legionnaires thing, that was, you know, I don't know if they ever actually began that with honest intentions or if only people who thought it was an honest, true production, but basically it ended up being a scam. They got a lot of people to put in money for a share issue to make a film, and the idea was that if you put up some cash, you would get to be in it as an extra or something. And they took the money and ran. I mean, they had the...
They went around all the major conventions plugging it, and so it was something like £300 got you a share, and you would be an extra. Your name would be on the credits, blah blah blah. Thankfully, that was a time when £300 was a lot of money, so most of us went. Nice idea.
There were a lot of people involved.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, I would pay £300 to be being said. There are some movies I would be prepared to do that. But back then, it was way out of imagination, even for a movie you want to be.
It does seem that, what I gather, that Legionnaire did start off on potential case of enthusiasm over common sense, and they did make promises out things weren't quite in place. It does seem that there's more over enthusiasm.
And that's another thing about the TV and the film production industry, is it doesn't spring fully formed from the head loose. You know, it takes ages. I mean, using Blade 7, for example, 7 years companies had those rights. I mean, I haven't been involved with them. I've been on this project for about 2-3 years now. 7 years they've had the rights, and they very stupidly said, we've got the rights to Blade 7, all Blade 7 fans went, right, well, we're expecting a TV show in about 3 weeks and a lot of the Blade 7 fans are serious hardcore fans were very upset about the fact that nobody made anything. Time went by and time went by, and they said, you've got the rights, what are you doing with them? And rightly so, because they want to see, those people are fans of that show, they want to see more of it. But because most people don't really understand how long it takes to do this, to get the last 10%. And sometimes, you'll get right down to the line of something being produced and then it won't happen. Because the money will fall through, or be a time-related issue, you can't be an actor, or whatever.
Sorry to interrupt James for 5 minutes.
Okay, it's a very difficult situation to find yourself in.
Well, Richard Branson's a lot of music, Blade 7.
That's a good point.
Actually, if I was named Richard Branson, I'd be asking for a free ride in shit. Let's Sci-Fi band in space. Oh yeah, I love that.
I mean, there has been several, like, Branson and Star Trek New Waters.
Oh,
They've actually
pretty much what John Carrigan is one of the actors.
That's right, yeah. And they've actually brought some, that's a big space too, some of the original writers like Jerry Gerald have actually expressed the story that they're now talking more about the fact they've managed to get that together so well.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever see a future that, barring the legal match that you would have, is that...
Well, New Voyages, basically, Paramount's position on New Voyages is if you don't make any money from it, we won't sue you if you're out.
Yeah.
And Paramount's always been pretty good about that aspect of the fact because they know, you only have to look back at Massive Track, the Videotron's writing campaign that helped them make decisions to bring the third season of the show back. They know that if Paramount turn around and say, okay, no more fans, no more fan sites, no more fan films, fandom will turn to fans. And they will be upset and walk away from the show. They know that the fandom is a very integral part. I mean, it's not the be all and end all, because obviously they want to produce something that everybody watches, not just fans. But they understand that pissing off the fans will not help them as well. So I think Paramount have always been, we will turn a blind eye to this if you want to expand into your own stuff, as long as you don't start eating into our sort of part of the business. Whereas, you look at George Lucas, very famously shut down a lot of Star Wars fan sites because he decided he wanted to take more control of it, and that got him quite serious backlash from hardcore fandom. So I think the New Voyages, the whole idea of the burgeoning YouTube generation, people making their own stuff. I think that's a great place. It's kind of like fanfic of the 21st century in a lot of ways, isn't it? And with technology getting easier to use, desktops or special effects, it's easier to produce that kind of stuff. I think we've definitely been seeing more of that. Whether it can be produced to a professional level, you look at New Voyages, that's quite professionally done. But that's because that's being done by, being done by professionals. People are giving up their free time, people are not being paid to do it. Most of these productions are done by a bunch of fans, hand in hand, basically don't have the time or the effort, or even the ability to do it themselves, but it still keeps that kind of thing, it keeps it strong. So I think there's definitely, that's not going to go away. Whether that's a gateway towards doing real storytelling, who knows? Because New Voyages is good enough to be brought out by Paramount one day and they'll start showing up on TV. Every episode that I've seen has been like geometrically better than the one before. So who knows? It's certainly cool. I think that is it's the new iteration of sort of fan fiction. The ability to be able to make your own episodes. How cool is that?
Have you ever had a kind of comic strip Parker Scargill story moment where you scripts have been taken and
Oh, okay.
totally and utterly destroyed.
No, I've been pretty lucky. There have been a few times where I have had to argue the toss. Sometimes, as in, any kind of sort of business structure, there are some people who have, it's their job to fiddle with stuff. If they don't fiddle with stuff, they're not doing their job, so they fiddle with things just because they can fiddle with it. Right? It's like, this is fine, just leave it alone. I'm brilliant, leave me alone. Look at me, I'm great. I've had that happen a few times. And I'm quite pole sheep when it comes to my own stuff. So I have to sort of walk in and I don't, you said a little bit about my agent. I don't have an agent. I've never had an agent in my entire career. A lot of writers like having an agent because it gives them someone who's a professional bastard, basically. So you get to step back and you go, oh, I'd love to work with you. And your agent goes, no! And because I've never had an agent, I do that myself. So I go in and I'm like, you are not touching my script. So I've never had that sort of situation, and I never do. I know writers who have had stuff they've written been eviscerated and completely gutted by it. And then when that happens, what can you do? You just sit there and like, okay, take the money, off you go, do something else,
It's just coming up to 11 o'clock. Would you mind at least joining us in 2 weeks?